Hey, Elliot. Elliot? Hey, Elliot. Oh, that's right. I recorded this interview way back in April before Elliot and I had even started this podcast. This was originally intended to be an interview on the My First Dungeon feed, but it feels more appropriate here now. So you'll just be hearing me on this one. Okay, on to the show. Today, I am joined by a pillar of the tabletop role-playing game community. He is a game designer, author, and podcaster. You would likely know him from his award-winning Yazeba's Bed and Breakfast actual play series, or more likely, his Emmy-nominated long-running podcast, Party of One, where he has played literally hundreds of one-on-one games over the past 7 years. He is a wealth of knowledge and, just an all-around good guy to boot. Please welcome to the show, Jeff Stormer. How's it going, man?
Hello, I'm happy to be here. I'm doing good. I've been looking forward to this conversation. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah, I always enjoy getting to sit down and talk about this stuff. This is part of the joy of making the thing.
It is really great, and I also especially love talking to other podcasters because we can wallow together in some of our own little grievances that we have to settle.
I'm the only I am a podcaster by day job and also podcaster by night job. So this is my chance to actually talk, and I am the podcaster at my job. So this is my chance to talk work with my peers, and I look greatly forward to this.
We'll commiserate. We'll talk about tabletop. We'll do all that. I'm looking
forward to it.
So, Jeff, this is our first meeting, so I'd love to learn just a little bit about you. And one of the first questions I like to always ask people is, how did you get into tabletop role-playing?
I got into tabletop role-playing in a very strange and backwards way. Video games have been part of my life as long as I can remember. The earliest memories are playing the Nintendo in the basement of the first house that we lived in. We moved around a lot, and I remember distinctly loving video game role-playing games. I was a huge fan of Dragon Warrior, not to date myself too much by naming that particular game. But yeah, I loved video game role-playing games. My brothers and I all loved Chrono Trigger. It was a thing that was part of our lives. And then when I was about 10 years old, my brothers and I found a book at a yard sale that we assumed was a guidebook for a video game. Because it was called Middle-earth Role-Playing, which was a 1990s tabletop role-playing game for the Lord of the Rings. We bought it because it was cheap and it was at a yard sale. Sure. We read it. None of us understood what we were reading because it was a 1990s Rollmaster-based role-playing game, and we were all between 10 and 12, 8 and 12. And we're like, I don't know what I'm doing with this. But it wormed its way into my brain, and now, almost 30 years later, here I am, making this my career.
It's amazing that I don't think I've had someone on this podcast who, when I asked them the question, how'd you get into tabletop role-playing, has said oh yeah, buddy invited me to a D&D game. There's always backward ways that people fall into this hobby.
It's such a strange hobby. It's it truly is such a strange hobby where there is so rarely is the obvious way in the way that we come in. There's a front door. Yeah. And very rarely does anyone walk through that. It's always I climbed in the third story window and I looked around and said, well, I guess I'm on the third floor now.
Which feels really fitting as well for tabletop role-playing. If you're playing a game of Dungeons & Dragons or something, no one's going in the front door.
That's true. That's true.
They're going in the side door. They're talking to the bartender.
You're exactly right.
Actually, a question I have on that. Have you since played that game? Have you picked it back up anytime recently?
I make it a tradition to read through the game once a year to see if I fully understand it. And I have tried some solo games of it just to get my head around the rules. It's a strange, it's a very 1992 role-playing game is how I would describe it. There's some really interesting stuff in it. It's doing some things that are honestly kind of ahead of its time. There's some really interesting touches around making your characters distinct and unique within the world of Middle-earth, and it's playing with narrative beats in kind of ways that are interesting for the time period, but it's a lot of D100 rolls and critical hit tables and hits hits, wounds, and other things are all different measurable stats. Like it's a rough game, and especially like I'm in my 30s, and I'm like I mostly understand.
It's amazing that people like publish those, and they were played back. Like everything's gotten very streamlined these days, I guess.
Oh yeah.
It's amazing that those existed and were so popular even back then.
It's wild to me. Like it truly like shows you that like there's a perseverance to the nature of like creating your art when you just go back and look at some of these things and you're like, this was truly, you can feel that this was someone's like passion project, and that this was someone's like, I am going to fix Dungeons and Dragons. Like I am going to fix it, and this is my thesis statement on how we can rebuild it.
By hook or by crook, it will be fixed.
And that's such an and like it truly like reading that, like even if I think the thing is not very good, like I will read a thing and be like, I at least appreciate that somebody sat down and was like, this is my masterwork. Like this is my statement in the world.
I fucking love that. I've only played as far as like D&D or like older games. The latest game I've played is like 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. Everything else has been like a lot of newer things.
Right.
I really need to go back and play like 1st or 2nd edition, or play something that was released in like the 70s or 80s.
70s games are fascinating. I think that there's a lot of really cool stuff. Like I do like a lot of like OSR, old school style stuff.
Yeah, I've never tried any of those.
Like there's cool stuff there if you are keyed into like the particular theme that they are playing in, which I like do acknowledge like is a ton of fun when I like sit down with it. But like there's a lot of 70s like post-war game stuff that I think is really just like fun and grimy and cool, and then there's genuinely like there's just cool weird stuff scattered throughout the early like decades that I think is a ton of fun to kind of like flip through.
I do want to get into some, because you've played so many games, I feel like I've got to get some suggestions from you as we go. I'm curious, for me, if I want to play a 70s game or like a 70s or 80s game or something that is like, give me some like hard crunch. I want to feel the pain of like people who played these in the 70s.
I mean, I gotta, it's like I mean, Traveler is extremely like, Traveler is a 70s sci-fi role-playing game that has been updated several times, and it's very famous because you can die in character creation, which is delightful. You often make characters that are barely functional. You start out the game in a, like, I don't know if it's intentional, if it's like an intentional commentary on capitalism on the part of the designers of Traveler, that you start the game in an untenable amount of debt 9 times out of 10 and are like taking on desperation jobs to try and claw yourself out of an economic hellscape. That's very 1970s, and like I like a lot of those things a lot. I don't know if thematically like they were going for it, but they hit on some themes that speak a lot to Jeff Stormer in 2023.
I fucking love that. I was just watching some video. This is totally unrelated, but some video came up on Instagram, and it was like a kind of an America's Funniest Home Videos thing from like the 70s, when someone was they made a Domino's tower in a Blockbuster, like all around the Blockbuster, but with like the empty VHS tape boxes.
Right.
And it was like thousands of these things. And I watched this like 3-minute long video of this whole thing going. And at the end, I had a very visceral thought of like, these guys did this for fun like 40 years ago, having no idea this would like bring joy to a guy in 2023. In the same way that like people who are making games in the 70s, like probably didn't really have a concept that like their things would still be relevant and still be enjoyed 40, 50 years later.
Yeah, I think that there's something truly beautiful about that. And like, that's one of the things that I love about like small, weird pieces of art is like when someone finds a piece of art and it like connects with them, like there's something truly beautiful about it when it is just like, a small thing that someone made because they desperately needed to make a piece of art. Like that to me is like a core piece of like why I seek art out, why I make art. Like there's just something beautiful about like that on a fundamental level.
For sure. And I feel like stuff like that, when you find those like little hidden gems, they're so hard to find. Like they're not going to be on any like listicle. You'll just like find them and
you
they become
stumble
a part
across
of you.
them, and it's a truly like, and like that's part of what adds to the magic of it is like when you stumble across like there's like because that ad it creates this feeling of like it's like we were talking about the third story window, like you find a thing that feels like you weren't supposed to find it, like you were never supposed to see it, and like that adds so much to the experience of like going through the art is when there's this feeling of like I am looking at something that is like secret and special and specific to me.
I love that kind of stuff. Now I've got to think of a good example of something that I've found in that way. I'll think on it and we'll come back to it.
I mean, there's a party of one example that is legitimately the best somebody found a role-playing game story that I've ever experienced.
Oh, okay. What's that?
It's an episode that I often recommend to people who are checking out the show for the first time. It's my favorite episode title of any podcast that I've ever created.
Okay.
The episode title is it's episode 311. I remember this because I laugh a lot about an episode that references a lot of bad 90s music also being named 311.
Hell yeah.
It is the My Little Pony RPG Alex Perlman found in his house when he moved in.
Whoa.
My friend bought a house and he moved into it. And as he was cleaning out his new house, he was cleaning off one of the bookshelves and found a piece of paper on it. And on it were like the 2 pages of rules that went into like a mid 2000s My Little Pony fan RPG.
Oh my God. What a fucking find. That's like finding the secret safe in your floor or something for role playing.
And we both laughed about it because he said it to me and I agreed. Like he was like, I am one of maybe he like his exact words. He was like, I'm one of maybe 6 people that were going to find this.
Right.
And understand what I'm looking at. And then sure enough, he also happened to have a friend who produced an actual play podcast that was willing to play a strange My Little Pony game that he found in his attic. So we sat down and we played it.
The thing that's reminding me of, I don't know if you remember these, but there was a time when cereal boxes like Captain Crunch and stuff started putting video games as like the prize. They'd be like a CD with like a shitty Captain Crunch game or something.
Yep.
Those games fucking slapped. We didn't have a lot of like video games or like computer games in my house. We had like the pre-installed ones and then like you'd rent some from the library, like Spy Fox or something. And then we had those like cereal box games, and like the Chex game and the Captain Crunch game fucking slapped. And like, I'll never find those again. They're so much fun.
There's that's and I mean there's a genuinely fascinating thread there that like have you ever heard about or people have talked about rather how those games connect to a hugely important thread of like games archival and like preservation efforts?
No.
So it's super fascinating, and this is wildly off topic, and
we're way off topic right now, but we're doing it. We're gonna see how we get back to the main thread.
We'll tie it back around in a moment, but like those things are a fascinating example of like the challenges of modern media preservation, because so much of media preservation efforts are done by corporations. They're done by like Nintendo games are preserved by Nintendo. And if you are a third party like preserving Nintendo games, you are very likely to get hit with a cease and desist or sued by Nintendo. But the problem is that means that Nintendo is only preserving the games that they are like financially they believe they can turn a profit on. So there is entire generations of games that like are not preserved in that way. So like all of your weird cereal box games and like kind of bad but wonderful and weird little like licensed games that nobody was really like putting thought into, like that's all becoming lost media in a way that like feels like in the world that we live in shouldn't be possible, but there's this entire wave of like late period electronic lost media because of like the way that law intersects with digital archiving and preservation.
That's fucking wild.
It is a rabbit hole that I fell down, and I can't, and like it's become an obsession of mine. And here's how we bring it back around. Hit me. I'm ready. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Hit me.
This is one of the reasons why I feel like playing games and like recording them and cataloging them is a really important thing, because games are also a field that has had like a tremendous history of, to the point of, you know, finding a My Little Pony RPG in your attic. Like, they are a field that is also very prone to lost media, because a game gets printed 10 times, nobody buys it, and it goes into a shredder, and like that was somebody's beautiful masterpiece work. And like,
right,
I think there is a beauty in the various forms of like games archiving and preservation that is like modern media stuff around tabletop games.
I literally, as we were talking about this, I wrote down on my notepad next to me Party of One as an archival, you know, source, because you really are like putting so many of these games that are not, they're not the big mainstream games. These are a lot, like I'm scrolling through your list, and I think I'm a fairly, you know, competent person. I think I'm fairly in the loop. And I look through some of these games and I've never heard of a good chunk of these. And I'm just like, what is this? What is this? What is this? What is this?
That is legitimately some of the best feedback I can get, because like I've always wanted the show to be a showcase for like a showcase for what games can be. And that often means playing games that like are interesting and outside of the wider purview, and like being able to show them off and like highlight them is an incredibly gratifying feeling.
It is also fun. Like, smaller games like that usually do a thing that I think some of the best games do, is that they choose to do one thing.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
And they do that one thing amazingly well. We played 10 Candles recently, and I think 10 Candles is one of like the best written books for tabletop role playing.
It's art. I mean, it is a beautiful piece of art.
Phenomenal.
And to your point, like you play 10 Candles because you want to tell one very specific experience. Like, there is a hyper specific story that you like, a hyper specific emotional story experience, like a play experience that you are going through when you play 10 Candles. And like, that is like that kind of specificity. Like, the older I get and the more games I play, the more I crave that kind of specificity, because I want to be pushed into a very specific place and like feel that. And a game that is like, this is what we're doing, we're not doing anything else, is beautiful. Like, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And games that are trying to do more broad, like, you know, your D&D, your Pathfinder, even something like Call of Cthulhu, which still has a pretty specific idea, they're trying to do a lot. So if you're trying to tell a very specific story, there's a lot of different tools that you're not going to use. Whereas 10 Candles or like Wander Home or I'm looking at my shelf, Fiasco or something, they're trying to do that one thing. All of the tools in that book are geared towards getting you to that one point. And so like everyone from the players to the game master is absolutely supported, because every single decision that's being made in this book is to get you to that one place rather than get you to a general vicinity near that place. And I think that stuff is just fucking phenomenal.
Absolutely. Like, it gets at the art of games and play for me, is like to be able to say like, this is my statement. This is what I am saying. This is what I feel. This is what I want to convey. I think the high level way that I would say it is like the deeper that I get into games as art, the more I want art that makes a specific statement, and I want to experience something in specific, and a game that like really narrows in on something like captures that in a really beautiful way.
Yeah, I totally agree. One of our most recent seasons, we played a game that I wrote. It was a kind of a one-page RPG. It wasn't one page, but it was like kind of in the vein of one-page RPGs, called Schrodinger's Cats. And it was like, you play as cats, but you've got like quantum powers. So it's a little bit like Honey Heist type thing. And I wrote it, and we played, the first time we ever played test it was live on mic. So that was very fun and nerve-wracking. But my biggest worry was that I came at it from like a very mechanical standpoint. Like I came up with the mechanics, but I didn't necessarily know what the like, what's the tone, what's the story I'm shooting for. And every time something like failed or didn't work as well as I wanted to while we were playtesting, I could pretty much always draw it back to the point of I don't necessarily know what I'm trying to say with this game.
Right,
I know there are
absolutely.
like mechanics that work, but I don't know what it's trying to be.
One of the things that I my dear friend Brandon Leon Gambetta, who is the podcaster and the designer of Pasión de las Pasiones, which is one of my favorite games. Brandon has talked a lot about designing PBTA, and he's always like, that's like the first or second thing that you really that he suggests doing is like, he calls it finding the true heart of your game. And I think that finding that true heart like is, you can tell when a game has found its true heart. You can tell when a game like knows exactly what it's really saying under the surface. And I think that is an inspiring, gorgeous thing.
Yeah, it is one of those things. What's from the congressional hearing about pornography? I can't describe it, but I know it when I see it.
You know when you see it?
Yeah. When you see it, it's so apparent.
100%.
And it's you know, the it's really a pain to have a thing that I've written and be like, I know this isn't it. And I don't quite know how to get there, but I know what it will look like when it is there. I just got to figure
100%.
out the path to get there. So the main topic we wanted to discuss today, and we're slowly finding our way towards it.
I think we landed back on the topic in an incredibly graceful way. And I want to take a moment to just say, hey, we did it. We got there.
We did it.
We got through it.
Through roundabouts and back alleys, we found our way back onto the main thoroughfare, which is helping game masters find and learn new games. And I think we've already like touched on this, on what a good game is.
I mean, and I think like at a high level, like if I had to like put like a formal, you know, it's very much like I'll know it when I see it situation, but like I think that my go-to thought would be like, any game can truly be like a good game if it is the right thing for where you are and your group are like at that moment, but finding the game that like genuinely in whatever capacity you need it to will like help you, you know, have the play experience that you want will make like that is a wonderful thing to be able to find. And it is absolutely like a skill that, you know, you have to know where to look and know what you're looking for.
So I guess on that, for people who don't yet have that skill, for people who've never played tabletop role-playing games or have just played D&D or just Call of Cthulhu or something, where should they be looking for new games and what should they be looking out for?
That is a genuinely great... So the first thing that I would suggest, if you are someone that has played D&D or has played Call of Cthulhu or has played like a game and you're like, I want to find something new and interesting, I mean, I think that the first thing that I would suggest truly is like, look inward. Look inward. Fix your heart is what I would say. No, like talk to your group, think about it yourself, and like knowing what you're looking for is, I think, one of the most powerful like ways to find the thing that you're looking for. Like think about your time playing the game that you've played and be like, okay, I like this. I'm looking for something that's different in this way. Because it's easy to say like, oh, I'm looking for something different. I would love a game that is crunchier, but that can mean a lot of different things. Like that can mean that character creation is more complicated. That can mean that there's more rules in combat. That can mean that there's more rules outside of combat. That can mean that, you know, that it's using those mechanics to tell like a hyper different story. If I'm like, oh, I want a game that's like got like a specific story to it, that's got like a specific narrative to it. Like that's like, you know, I could think that, but if what I'm really thinking is I want something that is going to tell a specific story, but I want a specific story about, you know, heroes kicking ass and taking names, and I end up picking up 10 Candles. Like 10 Candles is a beautifully written and designed game. I'm going to have a terrible time with it. Like I'm going to have a bad experience. And like, it is the best thing that you can do with the first step you can take is to truly and honestly, with no like shame, second guessing or hesitation, say, this is actually what I would like in a different game.
Though I do think a superhero 10 Candles module sounds awesome.
That sounds fascinating. And I would love to play that game. I'd love to play that game. There's a lot of games that I've played that like were beautiful, life-changing experiences, and I'm grateful to have gotten to play them one time.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
like
fair.
there's a mindset around games which is like, oh, I played it every week for 10 years, and I'm like, there are some games where I play it once, and I'm like, all right, I don't need to go back to that.
Right.
But I recognize that it shook me to my core, and I feel like I've lived a better life for having played it, but you can't make me go through that experience a second time.
And that's fine. Sometimes it's a one and done. You're going to get that perfect story. You hold it in your heart
Right.
forever, and you put the book on the shelf and give it to someone else when they ask what it is.
Exactly right. But as for like finding the actual, like once you know what you're looking for, finding things is a lot easier. There are like a few marketplaces that I that are not always the easiest to look through, but at least are like centralized places where you can find games and game stories. Like itch.io is a marketplace specifically for a marketplace that is like that has become largely adopted by, you know, indie games, self-published games, newer creators. There's a lot of like individual marketplaces, and the physical game section in the last 2 years has become like a hotbed of like indie RPGs, and that is always the first place that I go looking if I'm looking for a specific game. There's also Drive-Thru RPG, which is a larger marketplace of games. It is much longer established. It is run by the same company that runs the D&D DMs Guild for third-party content. It's their like indie games arm. It is there's a lot more stuff on there. It's a little bit harder to search sometimes, and the web design on the actual storefront is candidly not as intuitive. It's not the best, but like it is a long established marketplace, and those are like two of the big marketplaces that I will go and like search for. If we had this interview a year ago, I would say Twitter would actually be a pretty good place. Like once you start following game designers and creators and like keeping an ear to the ground, like you will eventually like hear about some cool, interesting games.
Mm-hmm.
Not as true in 2023. And that has become a lot like more fragmented. Like there are designers that I follow on Tumblr. There are designers that I follow on Co-Host. There are designers that I still follow on Twitter. Like it has become a lot more scattered. So finding things via social is like a much harder experience. I also candidly I recommend like following actual play productions, following, you know, streams, and there are content creators making like more journalistic content or like showcase content that are doing really wonderful work. There's people like Sam Lee, Goblin Mixtape on TikTok and Twitter. Sam is incredible. There's Philippa Mort. Like there's a lot of people doing like really wonderful like showing off work, and I think those are some of the best. I think that like those are also some of the best ways to find new games, just because like people have made it their mission to show off new games. Like there are people, like it is one of those wonderful things where like even if you don't have the skill in finding a thing, there are people who have made it their job to have that skill and share it with people.
That is the thing I'll say about the tabletop community in general. And while tabletop social media can be like an iffy place sometimes, but at its core, it is a community that supports members of the community and uplifts members of the community. And like, that's the reason why, you know, something like part of the reason why like Worlds Beyond Number became like a top 10 Patreon in like 5 days is because this community is very supportive of things. I mean, it has a famous cast and stuff, but that's true of a lot of things. This community is particularly vocal and vehement about supporting games, supporting each other, and people like Sam who act as curators and mouthpieces and cheerleaders for like great games and great things that are happening are not necessarily few and far between like they are in other communities. There's a lot of people who are like very actively saying, here's what's great. Look at how exciting this is. Look at this cool thing that's happening here. And especially, you know, coming off of Zine Month in February, which this was the first year that I was, super involved in that. I was amazed at how many things come out, how supportive the community was, and honestly, just how much cool stuff was being made.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it is like, and even Zine Month existing, right? Like it is Zine Month at its core was a 1-month community-led project that was born out of, hey, like we are feeling let down on multiple levels by like an institutional effort, and the number of people that like stepped up to offer their time and expertise to say like, hey, like I am here to support you and the art, like that's a cool and beautiful thing. And I think like you truly love to see it is really all I can say about it.
You really do. So as much as I can sometimes feel negatively towards some of the like vitriol that happens in like tabletop Twitter, I do love the space because of how positive it is. And also, this is true for kind of anything in the internet. Once you decide what kind of game experience you want, the internet is a big fucking place.
Oh, absolutely.
That game is out there. Not only that, there's probably like 10 of those games out there, and at least one of them is pretty damn good.
And the nice thing is, like, as someone else who also gets a little bit of vitriol about things from time to time, I've been known to be a little salty at moments of my life. I recognize this. And it goes back to it also goes back to what we were saying earlier, right? Like that idea that like so much of art is like, and you see a lot of this in like modern indie game design where like so many things are one person making something because they truly feel like it's a statement that they need to make. And like, to me, there is something beautiful about if I go and find like an indie game that designer is probably just like a person that like you could just like write a nice message to and be like, hey, I played your game and really enjoyed it. And like that will legitimately make their day. Like that, like some of the interactions I've had where I've been like, yeah, I played this game, like not even for the show or for art or anything. Like I just played it because I was in the mood for a game and it fit the bill. And then getting a message that was like, oh my God, I cannot believe that. Like this, I'm so proud of this game. Like I didn't think anyone was ever going to play it. Like I released it into the void and no one's ever talked about it. Like that to me is a pretty genuinely beautiful thing to be able to like play a game, have it be perfect for you and have this amazing experience. And then also know that like the ability to find games that are truly just like something someone made is like is for as many problems as I have with the modern tabletop RPG space and industry, like that element is a pretty cool and beautiful thing.
I wasn't on Twitter for a very long time. I just got on recently because I wanted to, more readily promote this show.
Sure.
And get involved with the community. And it's been a generally positive experience. I go through a, negative spell every now and then. But one of the first things I did when I first got on Twitter, like a couple of years ago, I tried it for a minute and then got off it. I had just read a module in Arcadia. I think it was the first issue of Arcadia, the MCDM magazine, called The Workshop Watches. And it was written by Leon. Oh, I'm going to forget their last name. Leon Borellian.
Oh, yeah.
I hope that's correct. Leon Borellian. And the module was so cool. I immediately worked into my like year-long home game. And it became like a central part of the story and stuff. And I wrote to Leon on Twitter, I'm pretty sure on Twitter, saying like, hey, I played your module. It was so much fun. My players loved it. Here's what they thought, all this stuff. Just kind of putting it out into the world, and got an email back like the next day, like, oh, I'm so happy that you liked it. And we chatted for a minute or two. And that was a very cool experience. Like I hadn't quite experienced that yet with something that I loved, like being able to put out my positive emotions into the world and actually know that they're being received.
That's just it's a cool thing. Like it is genuinely like a cool little thing about the world that we live in.
It's great. So I know we were talking about that finding new games is a lot about knowing what you want.
Yes.
But for people who maybe don't know what's out there, or like knowing what you want is a very difficult thing to do sometimes.
Right.
One of the most difficult things in life.
I think it's the most important part of the process and probably the hardest part of the process.
Midnight Muscadines is a cozy, dark tabletop role-playing game where light and shadow intertwine in a fractured world. Players take on the roles of Marmoteers, brave adventurers who journey into the untamed wilderness to collect the elusive midnight muscadines, craft magical jams, and protect the fragile light of Nim. Through collaborative storytelling and resourceful gameplay, players weave tales of courage, community, and the pursuit of balance. Will you preserve the light, uncover the truths hidden in the shadows, or reshape the balance of the world forever? Midnight Muscadines is perfect for fans of Studio Ghibli and Sea of Stars who seek to capture the magic of exploration and the heartfelt adventure in a world where small heroes make a big impact. Play Midnight Muscadines as a traditional GM'd game, GMless, or even solo. Midnight Muscadines is crowdfunding now on BackerKit. Join the campaign at pandeongames.com/muscadines.
I'm Quinns of tabletop role-playing game review show Quinn's Quest, and this is Play to Find Out. Play to Find Out is an actual play podcast that brings notorious old games from the 80s and 90s back to the table. Each season of Play to Find Out, I'm joined by Emily Johnson and Rob Morgan.
Good? Nervous?
Yeah.
You both looked at each other really concerned, like you think what's about to happen is going to be unpleasant. And frankly, I think that's rude.
And together, we explore the TTRPGs of ages gone by. Our goal? To separate the TTRPGs that deserve to be remembered from those that maybe don't. I don't know, Emily. It was the 80s. A lot of people were on cocaine. We blow the dust from decrepit systems to learn how they work. Your 100 on the encounter table bursts out. Right, you've encountered a fog. Get ready. Don't laugh.
There's one get ready for a fog.
Don't laugh. Encounter their unique quirks.
I do finger guns to cover up how I wince.
A weird thing happens as you do finger guns.
Oh no.
And I'm hoping that the Quinn's Quest community will join us in exploring these games too. If you this up, cannot describe to you how much your adventure ends here.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because the best way to learn is to play to find out. Play to Find Out is available now on the Quinn's Quest Patreon, but the first episode of each series streams for free on the Quinn's Quest YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. Anyway, you failed the Earth Tech roll, and you made jokes while I was doing my exposition, so you don't get to hear any more.
Oh, no. Come on.
I was shook as...
So for someone out there who has either played D&D or played no tabletop games at all, they want to try something. Can you give me a couple of suggestions that you think would be good blanket games for people to check out? And like kind of give me like some superlatives, like who is this game good for? What experience are you trying to capture with this game?
Absolutely. A thing that I think is like a thing that I default to a lot because it's in part like how I take, like how I've always historically taken in a lot of the world. And so like I have found this helpful in like suggesting things to people is like I always kind of say, hey, like what's a thing that you're into? Like what is a movie that you like, or a style of movie, or a comic? Like what's a thing that you like that is like a kind of story that you would want to like tell stories in that vein? And I think that like I have found often that like that is a helpful vein for helping people like put into words, hey, this is a thing that I like and would like to like explore. Because I think a big part for me, something that has been really helpful for me and something that I've talked people through before is like helping people understand that like you can be specific. It's something that I'm actually really proud of in the show is like, or something that I have come to really appreciate on the show is like, or on Party of One specifically, is being able to showcase not just individual weird games, but very specifically like games that are very specifically tailored, whether because it was the designer playing it or it's just somebody like a game that is directly up someone's alley, like being able to show off, hey, this is like laser focused at you, because there's only two people on the microphone. Like and I'm going to be on every episode, so I'm fine playing whatever. Like, being able to laser focus a game at somebody's preferences, like, I always think that is one of the joys of the show, and like a helpful thing in showing people that like you can be specific with this. It's actually one of my favorite interactions. It's a piece of praise that I've gotten from people who have been on the show, is that I am admittedly very good at taking, because I spend a lot of time like trying to find games. A thing I love doing and I've gotten good at is taking people's suggestion and then going, "Hey, here's a game that is exactly this." One of my favorite examples was a game, a dear friend of mine, Alex Flanagan. They and I were playing, we're going to like had played games together. And two things that I know about Alex, my dear friend, is that he loves the films of David Lynch.
Okay.
And the 2019 film Cats, directed by Tom Hooper. These are two things that they and I love dearly.
I'm very curious what game you found. Like, what game combines those two?
There is a game called The Angelical Life, which is a Lynchian horror trip through a city of jellicle cats.
Wow.
And the moment that I was able to be like, "Hey, buddy, here's a David Lynch Cats game. Would you be interested in playing this for the show?" Like, that to me is like a highlight of my experience. that to me is what the show is all about, is getting to like come to my friends with like a cool rock and be like, "Hey, here's a cool rock. This is all of the things you like, right? This is everything." Perfect.
And I think that's a very good point to look at. If you have a very clear idea of what game you want to play, but you're thinking right now, no, that's not already out there. There's a David Lynch Jellicle Cats game.
There's a David Lynch Cats game. Like, you're probably fine.
The game is out there. I promise you, your thing is not weirder than that. There's no way.
3 off the top of my head, broad things that, like, with that conversation in mind, right? Like, you've never played a game, you've only played D&D, you just want to get an idea of what's out there. 3 things off the top of my head that I think, like, I could point to and say, "Hey, are you into this? Is this a thing that you like? Cool, here's a game that simulates it." 2 of them are Powered by the Apocalypse. I'm going to talk about, I've got a third that I think fits well. One of them is, I mentioned it before, but Pasión de las Pasiones. If you enjoy telenovela very specifically, or more broadly, you know, soap opera, reality TV, weeknight dramas, like, if those are things that you like, this is a game specifically about you play a telenovela and you play the family watching that telenovela on TV. It is a beautifully designed, wonderful game, but like, that's something that like a lot of people love, and it's something that like, you know, one of the joys of your friend making a game and you getting to watch it succeed is watching people go, "Oh yeah, I never thought I was going to like D&D because I don't play Dungeons and Dragons. I'm not really interested in fantasy, but like, I'll smash some reality TV. Like, I'll binge some Below Deck."
Right.
And this is a game specifically about telenovela and soap opera. Like, that's amazing.
I have been wanting to play that game for a while. It's on my list for this show in the near future.
I love it so much. A game that I played last night that I love it is my genuine bar none favorite game, both because the topic is one of the things that is the most close to my heart in the entire universe, and also I think it is one of the best designed games that I've ever played in my life.
Okay.
A thing that a lot of people like. There's a game called Worldwide Wrestling that is my favorite role-playing game. I love it. I love it with my entire heart. And like, if you are someone that enjoys big sweaty men slap meat, this is a game about professional wrestling and about professional wrestlers. And it is a game where you play out a wrestling show complete with, like, you know, heel turns and booking decisions and, you know, people getting injured in the ring and all of these things that make wrestling a beautiful art form that Jeff Stormer gets too emotional about, like, are wrapped up in this game that, like, yeah, if you just like wrestling, like, that's a game that is the thing that you like.
There was a period of time where me and like my 3 best friends growing up were passionately into WWE. And this was like the heyday of, this was like Rey Mysterio was still big. Undertaker was still doing stuff. John Cena was like kind of just coming on the scene. DX had like just come back.
I can pinpoint exactly when this was. This is I in my head I've got it laser focused.
I still remember we were sitting in a BW3s eating a bunch. We sat there for like 4 hours watching. I'm pretty sure it was SummerSlam or Survivor Series, and it was the spot where DX, where Shawn Michaels, like what's his kick called?
The Sweet Chin music.
Shawn Michaels backstage gave the Sweet Chin music to a random guy walking past, and then yells at Triple H, "See, I just kicked Stan," and we have said that to each other for years now.
Stan became like a notable wrestler and is currently like a very big, currently like a notable name on AEW. Like
Oh my God, no way.
Stan is currently wrestling on AEW, and that's one of my favorite little details. He is, oh God, what is his name?
I'm so happy about that. That made my whole day.
He is, give me a second. What is his name? Shawn Spears. Shawn Spears is an AEW wrestler who was Stan, who got super kicked. And it makes me very happy.
So you've hit 2 out of, you've only given me 2. So 2 for 2 are games that are definitely going to appear on this show in the near future.
That makes me very, very happy. Here's what I'll do. I'm gonna challenge myself in this moment. What's another thing that you like?
What's the thing I like? Let me look around my apartment real quick. What do I like?
It's one of those questions where you're like, God, do I like things? What in my life have I ever enjoyed?
I'm trying to think of like role-playing things. I've never played any kind of like sci-fi. I love like I'm a huge Doctor Who fan. There's a 70s BBC show called The Prisoner that I'm obsessed with. I also used to be a professional magician, so I like magic, but like sleight of hand.
I'm delighted to know this because there is a game by CJ McCullough. There's a game called Magic and Mischief.
Okay.
Which is very specifically, it's about stage magicians, but it's very specifically about stage magicians in context of a film that I dearly love with all of my heart, even as I recognize that it is not very good. It is very specifically a game about magicians doing crimes in the vein of Now You See Me and Now You See Me Too, which is the worst name for a movie that I've ever experienced.
What? They had Now You Don't. Why
it's
did
right
they
there?
Why?
And if you just apparently like the story actually came out recently that the only reason they didn't do it was because they didn't want to put "don't" in a title, and I'm like, that's a terrible reason.
Isn't like a pretty big movie Don't Look Back? Like,
right? Like it's a bad reason, and there was a bad decision backed by a bad reason. But there is a game about magicians doing crime that is Magic and Mischiefs, and that is a delight. There is also, I've definitely played, there is a game called, it's not explicitly The Prisoner, but there is a game that is gorgeous and cool and weird. It is called Lacuna. I might be pronounced. That's one of those I've only read it words, but it's called Lacuna Part 1, The Creation of the Mystery, and the girl from Blue City. It is a sci-fi horror conspiracy game where you play like a special agent dispatched into the collective subconscious to like apprehend criminals, but you slowly uncover like the dark history, like the dark reality of like the weird dream space that your organization has like drilled into.
Whoa. Yeah.
That is a game.
Yeah,
like that's, and like the core mechanic of the game is tracking your heartbeat and like tracking your heartbeat as it ticks up. Like like to do things in the dream space, like you can make anything happen, but it costs a certain amount of like your heartbeat goes up, and the closer your heartbeat goes up, the more you're in danger of like flatlining on a slab, Inception style.
Yes.
It's cool. It's a neat game. There's some wonderful recent games along that line, like specifically drawing. There's a game that is in the works that I've read through and I adore. Like the mechanics of it are gorgeous. The art is some of the best art design I've seen in a game in a very long time. It is called Triangle Agency. It's currently like ramping up to their Kickstarter, but they have like their Delta edition out. And it's very like Control inspired, and it's very much in that vein of like, you're an agent, everything is fine, don't look that way, like don't look to the left, everything is fine, we promise everything is good, please stick to doing your job. And like that is a gorgeous thing. Like it's like there's a lot of games that like touch on that vibe that I think are just cool as hell. And like It's one of those things that like individual games rule, but like also the act of going like, oh, I like this. Oh, here's a game that's really specifically about this is cool as hell.
Those games are reminding me a buddy of mine, friend of the show, Elliot Davis, a co-writer on the 20-sided newsletter with me, just crowdfunded a game called Project Echo. That's a solo journaling game that's about like
Oh, that's the one that's played through the planner.
the planner.
Right?
Yeah.
That's such a cool idea. That rules.
When he told, we were sitting in a cafe and he told me about that and a couple other games that he has coming down the pipeline, which I can't talk about on this, but are also equally cool. He told me about that game, and I'm actually like playtesting it right now. And that game hits so many of these same points of like,
Right.
I love like time travel and like time devouring stuff. Like, you know, I'm a big Doctor Who fan, and this kind of hits like all those things. He's just finished writing the game. He's like editing it. And then come next month, I'll be doing the layout for that game. And he'll be releasing it sometime in like June. And I cannot wait for people to sit down and play this game because it is so fucking cool. And it hits me in one of those places where like, this is exactly the game I didn't know I wanted. And I'm really excited to actually like sit down and have it in front of me.
That rules.
So that was two games for the general audience. You gave me like 3 games just for me. Did you have a third game for the general D&D or no experience audience?
I do. Actually, I do have a game that like I think is wonderful. I think there's a lot of great examples of it. I am noting that all 3 of the like broad example games are powered by the Apocalypse games. I note this because I do think that they just do pop culture styled things very well, and that is always a good opening to a gameplay experience. But like Masks is also just, I mean, Masks is Masks. Masks is like a modern masterpiece experience that is like, if you like superhero comics, if you specifically like teen superhero comics, X-Men, Teen Titans, Masks is as close to perfect for that genre as you can imagine. I do have one more generalized game that I will recommend.
Yeah, hit me.
It is not a Powered by the Apocalypse game. A thing like an exact kind of thing that I would recommend that I think is one of the more beautiful games that I've ever played. And it has the benefit of also being a 2-player game specifically that like you can play with anybody if you want to have just like a beautiful kind of intimate game experience. It's perfect for playing with like a romantic partner on a date if that is a thing you'd be interested in doing. I'm going to talk about Starcrossed because Starcrossed is a lovely, wonderful game that I will scream about till the end of time.
I've heard about this one.
Starcrossed is a 2-player role-playing game about 2 people who really, really want to and really, really shouldn't.
God,
it is
what a
played
fucking
with
tagline. They nailed that one.
It's the best tagline I've ever heard.
They nailed that. No notes.
It is you play it with a tumbling wood block tower that you have to refer to as such because the other name that you really want to use for it is copyrighted.
Yep.
And the way that it works is every time somebody does something to, I guess, flirt with, or whether intentionally or otherwise flirt with the other person, like you are telling a story of these 2 people in this one dynamic who really, really want to and really, really shouldn't. And every time you inch up to that edge of like wanting to fall, wanting to embrace, wanting to like make a move, you pull a brick from the tower. And your goal is to get through like 8 interactions and pull as many bricks as possible. But if the tower falls, then you make that move. Then like your character, like you describe what that looks like, and the more of the game that is played out, the better that is received. And it is just a story about romantic tension. And like, if you are someone that loves a rom-com, if you are someone that loves a slow burn romance, if you are someone that loves like smutty fan fiction, like this is a game that is for that. And like, it is a perfect way if there is someone that you are like, I would like to, like, if there is like, you could play it with just 2 people, so it is easy to kind of sit down and dive into it. But again, that's one of those like, what do you like? Oh, you like romance stories? Here's a game that is like hyper specifically about romance stories, and it is one of the most beautiful games I've ever played.
Rom-coms are my, not even guilty pleasure, they are my true pleasure.
I love a good rom-com. I adore a good rom-com.
I think You've Got Mail is one of my favorite movies. There's a great movie that's a little known rom-com called Take Me Home that's fantastic. It's like a kind of an indie rom-com. And over the past 3 days, I've watched both the 2005 and the 1995 miniseries of Pride and Prejudice. This is absolutely up my alley.
Have you ever seen a rom-com parody called They Came Together?
I know the movie. I've not watched it yet.
It is a wonderful treat for fans of rom-coms. Like, it is one of those it's one of those parodies that you can only really enjoy if you're like, but it's clearly made with a lot of love for rom-com structure specifically.
And I love rom-coms. And
love
just
them
like
a
straight up, a movie I love is Beyond the Lights. Whenever I'm like
Beyond the Lights,
a little bit bummed, I watch that movie and it lifts my whole world up. It's phenomenal.
I'm making a note of this.
Oh, it's great. The lead actress in it absolutely kills it. It's the same woman who's in San Junipero.
Yep. Okay. Got it.
That is definitely going to also be a game that I play, especially because as of recording this 2 days ago, I just got engaged to my girlfriend.
Oh, wonderful.
So now
congratulations.
That's like a perfect time to do this. That sounds like so much fun. The first time I heard about Dread, which is the first tumbling block tower game I had heard of.
Yep.
When someone told me like that was the game mechanic, it truly like shattered my brain. Like I didn't know that could be a thing. I was like dice and tokens. I don't even think I was at tokens yet. I was just at dice. And that when someone told me that, I like fucking lost it.
I think it's cool. I think it's like that's a perfect example of like showing you what games can be, right? Like it's saying like, yeah, you've played games with dice, but like you can play a game with a tumbling woodblock tower. You can play a game with a deck of playing cards. You can play a game with unlimited soup salad and breadsticks at an Olive Garden restaurant that's $9.99.
It is so cool what's out there and all this, the cool stuff that people are doing, the interesting stuff that people are doing, and trying these new games just opens up a whole fucking world of stuff that like
100%.
You can certainly simulate all these things with something like Dungeons and Dragons if you really want to, or rather than having a multi-tool that kind of does what you want, you can just get the really fucking nice screwdriver that fits exactly in the hole that you want it to.
100%.
As we kind of come to the end of this conversation, because I could absolutely talk to you all day about this stuff, so maybe we'll continue this again another day. When a game master picks up a new tabletop role-playing game, they know what they want, they found it. What should they be focusing on so that first session of that game is a success? Like, what should they be doing so that they have the highest likelihood of having a good game experience and like playing that game again and like trying out more and more new games?
This is going to sound like a flippant non-answer.
Okay.
But I mean it 100,000% genuinely. And like, it is honestly probably the best advice I could give about like the majority of games related issues and questions that come up. The answer is honestly focus on talking to your friends. Like those are the people in the room at the end of the day. Like whether it's just one person, whether it's four people, like the best thing that you can really do is sit down and like say like a session 0 is a really incredible and powerful thing of just like sitting down and being like, hey, are we all cool? Is this what we want to do? Like, this is the premise of the game. Like, are we interested in that? Great. Like, is there anything specific within this genre of game that like we want to experience? Is there anything we don't want to experience? Like, I love games. I truly do. Like I love them a whole lot, but like I recognize that the thing that I love about them is the person that I am playing them with or the people that I am playing them with. And like, to me, like, I think that is the most important thing you can do is like, make sure you're all on the same page. Make sure you all have a handle on like what the game is, what you want out of the game, what you want to pull from the game. That is going to make, because that's going to like, if you all agree, like, hey, we're going to play masks, we're going to be teen superheroes, what we really want to do is explore, like, what it means to be thrust into adulthood. Like, those are the, like, that's the theme that we're kind of into. You know, we're going to, yeah, I'd love to have a subplot where, like, somebody that I love is outed as a supervillain. Like, that would be some really good drama. You're going to create that experience that says that turns into the thing that you talk about 10 years later as like, oh man, we really got to get back to this game. To me, like, that's the heart of it, right? Because like, that's also the nature of play, is that we're going to sit down and like share some things and be vulnerable. And like, play some games and have fun together. And like, that makes sure that we're all interested in playing the same game.
I've been thinking a lot about session zeros recently, and on the show, I'm a huge proponent of them. I found the more explicit you get with your session zero about what you want and what you don't want, and I think even more specifically about what you do want to see, the better chance you have of having an amazing game. And the best games that I've played on this podcast and outside of it are when we have those very explicit conversations of, okay, here's what we don't want to see. Great. We know that we're not going to do any of that. Here's what we do want to see. And I was thinking about it the other day about comparing it to like a race, where if you all start at the starting line and we say, okay, there's the finish line, and someone turned to you and said, okay, what's the race course? You could just say like, oh, we're all going to run our own ways, and then like, we'll meet up at the finish line and see what happens. Or you can say, here's the course we're going to take. Let's have fun doing that together.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's why sports games have rule books. Like, it is a way to ensure that everyone is playing the same game and that like everyone is having a good time doing it.
And I think I understand why some people pull against session zeros, because I still feel it sometimes, where it feels like you're ruining the surprise of the story. You don't want to go into a movie knowing what's going to happen, like knowing what the twist is. But I think there's a little bit of that where you have to let go, because if you know where it's going to be going, you're going to have so much fun getting there. And if you know what those bounds are, you're going to have a much better time having all the fun within the bounds that you've set, rather than having this vast, expansive, playground with no bounds, but no one around to play with because everyone's off doing their own thing.
Well, and the other half of that is like, I think that, we've touched on a really good example in this conversation. Like, there are so many instances where you can map out, you can, I guess, ruin one surprise, but find 1,000 along the way. And I think I think 10 Candles is a perfect example. Like, at the outset of 10 Candles, it's a game that says, we are going to blow out these 10 candles. We are going to play 10 scenes. The monsters are going to gain on us. And at the end of the game, we're dead. We know that. There is no world in which that is not the end of the game. Also, you individually are going to know what your final thoughts are, because you're going to record a voicemail to be played immediately before the end of the game. So you kind of know the ending of your story already. You know what, like, you have that goalpost in mind, but what that also means is that, like, even if you're not surprised there, when I have played 10 Candles in the past, like, there are, so many instances where I'm like, oh, that was not where I thought we were going to go. Like, I knew where we were headed, but I had no idea what the stops were going to be along the way.
Yeah. And I'll say on this show, and I think of games I've played kind of period, the game we played of 10 Candles on this show is probably top 3 to top 2 role-playing game sessions of my life. And a lot of that is because, as we said before, that game is extremely, extremely good at doing one thing, and we knew exactly where we were going. So all of our choices, everything that we were doing, was in service of that goal.
Yeah.
And because we knew what the goal was, because we had discussed what we wanted to see and what we didn't want to see, and because we had chosen a game that was so specific, everything our characters did was motivated towards that one goal. So when we got to the ending, it was powerful as fuck.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
And that is all for this episode of My First Dungeon. Jeff, thank you so much for joining me. Can you tell everyone what you're working on right now and where they can find you?
Yeah, of course. I host Party of One, which is an actual play podcast focused on 2-player role-playing games. You can find that at partyofonepodcast.com. I am also a co-host of All My Fantasy Children, which is a podcast about character creation, storytelling, and world building. My best friend and I, every episode, take a listener-submitted prompt, and we spin it into a fantasy character. I am also a game designer. I make games that you can find at jeffstormer.itch.io. You can find all of the things that I am working on at jeffstormer.com. Or you can still find me on Twitter, provided that still exists at the time of this episode airing, at Party of One Pod.
And for anyone listening to this, we mentioned a lot of games in this episode. I'm going to have all the links to all the games that we discuss as well as all of Jeff's projects in the description. So if any of these sounded good to you and you don't want to have to type them in, just scroll down to the description. You'll see all the links there. I hope I don't miss any because there was a bunch, but they're all ones I'm going to be buying soon, so I'm sure I won't forget. If you enjoyed this conversation and you want to hear just a little bit more from Jeff and me, you should head on over to the 20-sided newsletter. It's our free bi-monthly newsletter for people who like games, make games, and like making games. In our next issue, you'll hear just a little bit more from this conversation where we talk about game design and what we've learned from good and bad games that we've played. Be sure to subscribe to this show, leave us a review to let us know that you like what we're doing. And as always, remember, if you're having fun, you're already doing it right. Bye-bye, everybody.
If you're hearing this, that means you listened to every last second of this episode. And if you simply cannot wait until the next episode drops, you should head over to patreon.com/myfirstdungeonpod and become a member of the Dice Pool. Flash! For just a few bucks a month, you'll get cast talkbacks, original games, and a full-length bonus actual play each and every month. As of the end of 2023, there's already over 20 hours of bonus audio, plus a whole bunch of other goodies to enjoy. So head on over to patreon.com/myfirstdungeonpod and jump on into the Dice Pool. We'll see you there. Splash!